Hello, this is Sheshachalam from Astroguide Mysore. So, today we will be once again continuing the series of the Mahadashas, the combination of planets, etc. So, here you can sit here. So, here, um, anyway, I would want to tell that I had been into a viral, very tough viral. The whole family was under the influence of a viral infection, and this is spreading rampantly in India today. Um, Very tough viral, which took nearly 20 days to even come out of it. I have not yet fully recovered because I have the dry cough. So the viral was as good, and as bad as not good, bad as the COVID. So anyway, we have all recovered. God bless. So let us come to the point today. What we are discussing. The subject today is the negatives of the Mercury Mahadasha. That is the negatives of the Mercury major period. I have done the positives of Mercury, and going back, we have done negatives and positives of Saturn and so on. We have gone back from the Vimshottari Dasha, which starts from Ketu. Then we did Ketu, then we came to Venus. I think we are going through the Vimshottari pattern, and we are now in the negatives of the Mercury Dasha, right? We are doing it in that particular pattern. Yeah. So, whenever Mercury is negatively posited, what is negative of a Mercury? Mercury, as you know, is a day and night, a planet which is the only planet which has been given strength in both day and night. Ahoratra. It has been given full 24 hours strength. That means this planet can blend very well with both night planets and day planets. So this is the fun. It can blend with Jupiter, it can blend with Venus, it can blend with Saturn, and it can blend with Moon. It can blend with Sun, giving rise to Buddha Aditya Yoga. This is such a fantastic planet that it has the character of blending with a cruel planet or a tough planet like Sun, and giving rise to one of the sparkling yogas called as the Buddha Aditya Yoga. It can blend along with Venus, giving rise to one of the most creative yogas of fine arts, creativity, and then it can blend with Mars, giving rise to one of the flamboyant yogas of becoming a lawyer, becoming a judge, becoming an advocate, a preacher, a teacher, and advisor, a counselor. So this is a very versatile planet. And this planet, when it becomes weak, that is debilitated or associated with a negative planet which is retrograde or overpowered in its Shadbala, then Mercury is said to be weak. And Mercury going along with Rahu Ketu axis, it is said to be weak. And such a Mercury in anybody's chart will not be causing difficulties throughout their life. So, what that Mercury will be doing then? It will be dormant. So, whenever the Mahadasha of Mercury comes into operation, it starts operating or showing its color. So, these are the 12 houses which are going to be explained. So, the first house, when Mercury is negatively posited, this is a whole class of when Mercury is negative. I'm not giving all the pointers, I'm giving you the important ones. A person will try to do something out of the way. Until then, he might be righteous because of the Saturn Dasha which was going on. And in the Mercury Dasha, he will try to do beyond what he can, and he can cross the boundaries of moral ethics. That is, he can be cunning, manipulative, become a con man kind of a thing. And that is a time when he feels that he is intelligent. His confidence is too strong that he feels that he can manipulate, and he can overpower people by his intelligence. So he unnecessarily, due to his overconfidence and doing things which are not as moral for the social cause, he gets into difficulties in this Mahadasha. If it is sitting in the first house and ruins the family reputation, there is a very strong chance that if it is sitting behind the ascendant, these are what I told you earlier was all when it is ahead of the ascendant. When it is behind the ascendant in the first house, he squanders away money, tries to invest money somewhere, and that he lose the whole thing, and he will suddenly go through memory loss. Children with this particular combination can suddenly become blank in examinations. So it is difficult. The thought process, the flow of thought from the brain, which has stored so much of data, the flow of thought will get interrupted in this particular period when the person will be going through the 17-year period of Mercury. And Mercury has all the three nature, that it is bilious, airy, and kapha, that is phlegmatic. So all the three mixed, all the three humors are mixed. So I have been telling you the humors earlier also. So in the second house, it gives you unnecessary problems like ulcer in the mouth and ulcer in the throat, bad breath, you know, and it can also give unnecessary talking, and which can make you get locked up into some situations. So you need to be careful if you are having second house Mercury, and if it is Nicha, Vakra, or it is placed along with any negative planets like Rahu or Ketu, or even a debilitated moon, you need to keep silent. Silence will save you from a lot of unnecessary problems. So, going to the third house, an easygoing and a very casual planet like Mercury, when it goes to the third house, the house of valor, the house of bravery, and the house of activity, the person suddenly loses his, motivation, and will suffer with regard to, this particular change of Mercury into his life, the Dasha entering into his life, and he becomes lazy, lethargic, and he wants to get things done just like that. And he does not want to pay the respect or the gratitude for those who are helping him. He takes things very easy, very casual, and that will actually give him a bad reputation in the place of work. So, see, respect is achieved by showing hard work, and these people in this particular dasha hardly work. So, they sometimes get into a tiff with the family members, and they might leave the house, wander across the country and come back later on after some days. So they might be going through some hardships with regard to adjusting with people. Relationships can get worse in the period of the Mercury dasha, which is negatively posited in the third house. So going to the fourth house, this is the house where you buy land, build houses, buy vehicles, vahanasthana, have good relationship with mother. All this has to be cautiously you know regarded when you are going through this Mahadasha. Mercury, if it is well placed in the fourth house, is an excellent placement, because though it does not give you the Dikbala, that is the directional strength, if Mercury is well placed, let us say it is giving rise to Bhadra Yoga in the fourth house, you will do wonderful with regard to building property, building houses. But the same thing will go reverse, and you might unnecessarily get locked up in situations of hurdles, like getting into problems of litigation, etc. So people, they will invest and the builder will not build. Yeah, there are many people who have given advance into buying an apartment flat, and the owner suddenly, the builder suddenly runs away. And now there are many cases in India which are running, where the builder is absconding. He has taken the money and run away, and now the whole project is like in doldrums. Somebody takes over the project, the person loses his house, he is fighting to get back the advance money, whatever he had paid. So these things keep happening, particularly when there is a bad Mercury in the fourth house. So going to the fifth house, this is an excellent place for Mercury to be placed, and if it is well placed. But when it becomes weak, the person has loose values. The value system becomes very loose, and it becomes very slack, and he has a lot of temper issues. He digs into things which are not required, unnecessarily craving for, seeking for answers when it is not his prerogative, or it is not his business at all. He pokes his nose and gets into trouble. So best is not to get into anybody else's headache in this period of time, and trying to help them, you will get into a problem. So the fifth house also is for education, and for children who are having a bad Mercury in the fifth house, please try to concentrate on your studies, get away from gadgets, and get away from unnecessary addiction of the television, etc. So this will spoil or else. So going to the sixth house where Mercury is posited, we have a weak health. We call it as a frail person, and with medical problems like nervous debility, urinary diseases, phobias, particularly phobias. And I have seen many people with OCDs, phobias, unnecessarily getting into designing plots, schemes, going into secret planning and all these things. So they might get into problems as such. So the same thing is for the eighth house also. When it gets into the position of the eighth house, it gives rise to a deha kasta yoga kind of a thing, where people might get into unethical practices of usurping somebody's wealth, or they will get into the allegation that they have done this in offices, some suddenly embezzlement problems. So people who have the eighth or the sixth weak Mercury or bad place Mercury, please do not get into investments, and do not get into any experimental ideas of trying to do something to get a lot of money. This is not the period of time in the Mercury Mahadasha. You need to be very cautious, and you need to be hygienic in your practices, because you might get into problems of suspension, etc. So when it goes into the seventh house, very, very important placement. The fifth house and the seventh house, when Mercury is hit, and let us say it's hit with Moon and Ketu, or planets like Napumsaka Grahas. That is, those planets which can give you the acting like a different gender, or getting into likeliness of marrying the same gender. These kind of associations can happen. It is nothing wrong that this happen, but the society does not accept it, because the majority is not like that. So there is a tendency of getting into a spot where you want to get married, but since it is not in the right way, you feel that the society might unnecessarily doubt your intentions, and you will not get married at all. So indecisiveness can become another factor in normal people also. When Mercury is placed in the seventh house and weak, and it is not malefic but weak, indecisiveness, phobia, fear of getting into marriage and getting into losing freedom can also happen. Suspecting people can also be a negative factor for doing business, because the seventh house is business. So if you need to do business, you can have a very good Mercury and Mars in the seventh house. fantastic business opportunity. But this is not a great thing to happen. And if in the eighth house, I left out one thing, that a person can suddenly lose all hope in the eighth house and get into deep depression, which can draw a very, can give bad ideas to the person. So he might unnecessarily, take life very easy, and might get into ideas of, leaving everything, and you know I'll not take that word. But anyway, give up on life or give up on living. So, going into the ninth house, a person will have difficulty with father, because the ninth house is the house of the father, or the paternal line, the lineage, and will suddenly have a fight with parents. They'll have disagreements. So people who are having the ninth house Mercury, which is badly posited, and it has, you know, mm, let us say, the whole of the dasha will not be like that. That's what I would want to explain. So when I'm telling you negatives, please don't take the negative as that the whole 17 years will be extremely bad, because there are other positively placed planets which will be coming within the Mercury Mahadasha. Because the Mercury Mahadasha will be like this: Mercury for around 2.5 years, then Mercury Ketu for 1 year or something like that, and Mercury Venus for again 2 years and 8 months or something like that, then Mercury Sun for 8 months. So this keeps changing. So what if Ketu, Venus, Sun, Moon, Mars, they are all well placed? If they are well placed, then the average has to be taken. Don't think that if I am telling you that Mercury Mahadasha is going to be bad, that the whole 17 years is a disaster. Nothing like that. So if I am telling that there might be a tiff between father and son in the ninth house when Mercury is badly posited, it is a momentary problem. When the bhukti changes, that is the antardasha changes, it can become good. It can become, come back to normalcy and stability. So people don't have to simply keep wandering like vagabonds. But if the ninth house is badly posited, there is a chance that the person will simply keep wandering. One job after another job, from Bombay to UAE, from UAE to US, again from US to India. So it keeps moving around without, the satisfaction. So if it is in the 11th house, yeah, without satisfaction is the key factor here. So the 11th house gains from doing wrong things or from sources which are questionable. So gains are there, but that means that one or the other day this can be questioned by the authorities. So you need to be a little careful there. So in the 10th house, I did not do the 10th house, I came to the 11th house. So uh, there are possibilities of unnecessarily getting into problems with the boss, getting into problems with the project. So suddenly putting you on the bench, suddenly telling you that there is no more job in this particular project and letting you go off. So losing job is seen very strongly when you enter the Mercury Mahadasha and it is badly posited, but it will quite easily stabilize once the Mercury Ketu and the Mercury Venus can start. And if they are well posited, you will be again reinstated in a good job. But those 2 years, Mercury means panic, anxiety, difficulties with colleagues because of misunderstanding, because Mercury means communication. So misunderstanding can happen very easily. So unnecessarily paying a lot of fines or penalties to the government. 10th house. So going to the 12th house, the last, we can see that if you are under unhygienic practices in the Mercury Dasha, there might be unnecessary infections caused through all three things, because Mercury represents the air, water, and the heat. So it can cause you inflammations, it can cause you, phlegmatic lung infections, and it can also cause you air diseases. So, in the Mercury period, if it is weak, people have to be careful. Wear your masks when you're traveling and be hydrating yourself. So, you need to be extremely careful with regard to diseases and health in the Mahadasha of Mercury. Anyway, whenever I talk about the 12th house, it can be temporary loss of job, temporary, getting into inquiries, suddenly losing job, or even behind the bars of economic offense. Yeah, economic offense can also put a person behind the bars in the 8th and the 12th because of unnecessary, unethical, enterprising ideas. So, thank you very much for today's class. God bless.